Now, our next step, we'll be starting to do some prototyping. All right, and that'll be due on the 11th. And on the 11th, right, you're going to have this first prototype, which is just a black and white prototype from your wireframes. Right, we haven't done the design yet. We're working on that this week. But what we want to do is, right, we have the UX started. We did our first round of wireframes. Looked at those wireframes this week. Based on that feedback, right, you're going to rework those, finalize, or, well, do the next version of them. And then export them all out into some prototyping software, put the clicks on it, and then in class next week on the 11th, what we'll do is we'll have each group, one group test the other group's prototype live. So you'll post a link to your prototype, and then you'll get to watch, right, how someone else goes through the app you've designed and learn if they understand what you've put together, if they can do all the tasks. And then based on that learning, you'll go back and rework your wireframes, right? You'll have your design versions that you'll be going over and organizing, turning to a single version, and then being able to apply that final design as you work towards creating the final version of your app. Okay. So you're going to create a click-through prototype using your wireframes, either InVision app, Figma, or Adobe IxD, whichever one you want. So the types of prototyping that are out there. Just wanted to run through some of the additional ones, right? When we do this class face-to-face, we do this version as paper prototyping. Very traditional. It sounds like the silliest, kind of weirdest, old school, like we could prototype digital products with paper. How in the world could we do that? It works really well. They're quick, they're cheap, they're easy. And once you see them working, you kind of realize, oh yeah, it really kind of works. So it's really kind of fun. I've linked to a little prototyping series that Google put together, sort of explaining the different levels of prototyping: paper, digital, and native. Right, for our project, we're going to be doing a digital prototype, so we'll do our wireframes and then link them up and present them. Just how paper prototyping is done. Right, I've linked to a few examples, so we can just take a look at some of these. All right, so this is the Google. I'm not going to go through this in great length. You can watch these at your own, but they cover the 3 different versions as they work their way through. So there's they're here, right? The next one. This one shows a little intro to how the paper prototyping works. And these are old, right? 2010. This is really kind of low tech, but they don't change how it works. And this is it, right? You do a frame and you draw the buttons, and the user tests it by clicking the button, and then you move the frame to the next screen. All right? And you can get crazy with this stuff. And here we go. Put in a little thing for the keyboard and pretend to tap the little letters. And there we go, right? So, again, it doesn't really change it, right? That's how it works, right? You have all your screens ready to work with. You have your frame. You start testing whatever the user clicks on. You move your background piece of paper or your frame to that screen. Have your other additional pieces all ready. So just have a number of examples of them. Right. Again, all these examples, relatively different versions of the same thing. So we just got some explanations. What is paper prototyping, right? And so let's talk about digital prototypes. That's really the section we were aiming for. So digital prototypes, there's a wider range of software that can be used to make a clickable prototype, right? And we're trying to make it more realistic, right? Maybe something we can run on our phone or on a website we can share with people electronically. So, and when you're choosing the software package to work with, right, you always ask the question like, what is it you need to test? Right? Do you need to see sort of like the whole app? Are you looking for just a specific section of the app? So different tools are good at different parts of prototyping. Some are simpler, some are more involved, some handle more programming processes, like letting you pick from a list and then giving you different pathways to work down. So lots and lots and lots of software choices. We work with 3 in this class, but all kinds of stuff that you can really get into with this. Okay, now increasingly design software for interactive design software includes prototyping, right? IxD and Figma are good examples of this. So just again, some resources. What is prototyping? Prototyping tools, a guide. So so what is prototyping from the IDF? Some prototyping tools, right? This is back from 2018, so even this is now out of date, so there's probably newer ones for 2021. Just a little more background on prototype, things to be aware of, how usability.gov defines it and explains how to use them. Okay. And then again, I've just relinked. These are the same links that are in the resources section for Figma and for Adobe XD. And just today, in a meeting with a student and trying to decide which tool they wanted to use, one of the reasons I like Figma, I think I find it easy and animates really well, but also it had this great group collaboration mode that everybody could work on the same set of artboards at the same time. So you had one file everybody was working on. You could, share the resources and the symbols, and you could also invite other people like me into it for the review. So when I was trying to explain what to do, I could actually just do it on screen while everybody's watching. So I thought it was really kind of fun to work with. IxD now also offers those collaboration tools. So these links I've just added talk about how to do collaboration with it. And then the old standby and vision. And finally, there's native prototyping. We're not going to do any native prototyping in this class, but doing a real project, right? You can't, we're really concentrating on the design, but then the team has to build it, right? And they need prototypes as much as anybody else in the process to make sure that their back-end systems all work, that the data goes where it's supposed to, that their server load and, but basically the whole thing doesn't really work. And oftentimes in working through new ideas, they'll kind of get it working, but it's not really robust. It's not fault tolerant, right? It can't take a whole lot of people slamming on the project at once. So once they've got it all prototyped and it's actually working, then oftentimes they'll engineer a completely new version based on that prototype, using the prototype as a guide as to what they're trying to do, and then really create what's called production code, right? It's documented well, it's bug tested, it's really ready for prime time. So there we go. Those are the types of prototypes, right? For our assignment, you're working on a digital prototype, so choose your tool and look forward to seeing them.